Good day, everyone, and once again we are back together. And this time we'll be talking about ogives, frequency polygons, and histograms. So we are continuing on our statistics videos. And so if you haven't subscribed, please just make sure that you do the right thing. And of course, for those of you who are new to the channel, okay, welcome to you. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And of course, we'll be continuing to give you just some good content, and just make sure that you recommend and you share as much as possible. Tell everyone that your uncle is continuing to dish out good content. All right, so let's get into our lesson. And of course, at the end of the lesson, please don't forget to give a good comment as well. And whenever there are questions, you're more than welcome to also get in touch with us. All our information will be on the description of this video. You can also visit our website, www.mlungisinkosi.co.za. All right, let's get into our lesson. All right, now let's talk about ogives or ogives, whatever it is that you want to call it. All right, so in this case, we are looking at univariate data. And by the way, what we want to do is, first of all, to draw, the cumulative distribution curve, otherwise called the ogive or the ogive, right? Now, in this case, what you're going to do is you're always going to use your upper bound values, right? And I'm going to show you just now. In this case, this is what we're going to use as our x-axis. So these are our upper bound values for your intervals that you're going to use as your x-axis. Now in the x-axis rather, or the x values. And then for your y values, we're going to use the cumulative frequency. Now what you do is, so I'm using here an example of, learners that obtained results for, say, their maths results for the prelims. And in this case, what this result simply means is that we've got 18 learners that get results between 20 and 30%. We've got 12 learners between 30 and 40. We've got 36 learners that obtain results between 40 and 50. And then we've got, of course, 34 learners between 50 and 60. So what we're going to do is we're going to now have a cumulative frequency column. So cumulative obviously suggests that you are accumulating the values, right? And what we do is, okay, so for our first value, we're going to take that 18 there, okay? Now, for the second value in the cumulative frequency, you say, well, this 18 plus the 12, that would give me 30. Okay, so there's my value there. Right, so for the next value, you say 30 plus the 36, that would give me 66. And for the last value, you're going to say, well, 66 plus 34, that will actually give us 100. Okay, now in this case, once I calculate also the number of learners, I want you to note that I should actually get the same value there. So the value, the total number of learners there should actually agree with the the number in the cumulative frequency. Apologies for that. Right, now what we're going to do is, because we also are going to calculate, in this case, the mean of the data. I'm going to show you later on how to calculate the data, the mean rather. So what we're going to do is we're going to need the midpoint. So let me just calculate the midpoint whilst I'm at it. Okay, so the midpoint between 20 and 30, what's the middle value there? That would be 25. Okay, between 30 and 40. If you want to know how to calculate the midpoint, obviously, you take the sum of the two values and you divide by 2. So to get the midpoint between 20 and 30, you just simply say 20 plus 30 and you divide that by 2 and you'll get 25. And of course, that would be 35 there. That would be 45 and that would be 55. Now, I took a few values. so that it's much easier for us to draw. Okay, now we can draw our ogive from here, and please, I want you to note in this case, right, so what I did was to just try and draw this out. Obviously you'll choose a scale, and normally you are given a graph paper for you to draw this on, right? So now, remember I said to you we'd use our upper bound values. So it means I'm going to start at 30. So the value that corresponds to 30 for the number of learners, or for our cumulative frequency, would be 18. So I'm going to go there and say, well, at 30, the number that corresponds with that is 18. So there's my value over there. Okay, I'm assuming 18 is there. Okay, then I go to 40, right? The number is 30. Okay, so at 40, the number that's associated there is 30. Okay, so there's my value there. All right, and then I go to 50, right? My x value is 50. My y value would be 66, right? So at 50, that would be 66. Okay, I'll just place it somewhere there. All right, and then the last one would be at 60. Okay, I said my value is 100. So in this case, you'd have that value there at 60. You've got the value of 100. So when you draw an ogive, what you try to do is you always try to make the values, you try to make the lines as smooth as possible, right? But then you always go to the lower value, the lower bound value. In this case, my lower bound value, the first lower bound value is 20, and you would make that your x-axis. Okay, all right, so in this case at 20, I'm going to make that 0. Okay, right, so in this case, let's try and draw our ogive. So this is going to look something like that. Okay, and there we go. Okay, right, so this is what my ogive looks like. Right, now there's a couple of things that I would like for us to do, right? First of all, I just want us to find obviously the 5-number summary. Okay, we're going to find quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3. All right, so in this case, obviously the minimum value in our cumulative frequency would be 18. But now, if I wanted to find quartile 1, now, what is quartile 1? That's actually 25% of your data, right? But in this case, 25% of what? Of the number of learners, right? So 25% of 100. So this would be 25%, okay, multiplied by 100. And in this case, that would be at 25. Okay, that is much easier for us to work with. Right, now, in this case, what does that mean? It means that now what would be my quartile 1? Okay, in this case, it simply means that I'm going to go to my cumulative frequency and say, look, I'm going to find 25. So I'm looking for my first quartile. So 25 is round about there. Okay, let me just change color with this so that we can see it. So 25 is round about there. Okay, so what value corresponds to 25 in this case? I would say 35. Okay, so it means that my quartile 1 is actually 35% in terms of the maths results. Okay, right. Okay, so if I wanted to find quartile 2, all right, remember in this case we are talking about the median. Okay, so sometimes they would say to you, find the median, okay, of the data. So remember quartile 2, that's 50% of your data, right? So that's going to be 50%, okay, 0.5, and that's 50 over 100, multiplied by the total number of learners. In this case, that would be obviously 50. So 50% of 100, that would be 50. And in this case, I'm going to now find a value that corresponds to 50. Okay, I go to my graph. The value that corresponds to 50, I would say, well, that's about what, 40, 47, 46. Okay, and by the way, you are given, quite a bit of latitude for you to work around those quartiles, right? And then if I want to find obviously quartile 3, in this case, what I'll simply going to do is, remember quartile 3 is 75%. I don't know why I'm saying 73. 75% in this case multiplied by 100. Okay, whatever that number is there, I just took a very round figure there, 100. So in this case, that would be 75. And so what is the value that is at 75? Okay, so I'm going to just make it green. Okay, and I go to my data and say, well, at 75, what is the value that corresponds to 75 there? Okay, then I go down. Of course, you're going to try and make this as straight as possible. That's around about 51, 52, 53, somewhere there. Okay, so I'll just simply say that would be 53%. Okay, right. Okay, so in this case, those are the percentages that are associated with our quartiles, right? Now, what I want us to do very quickly is to note how would we calculate, in this case, the mean, or rather, in this case, let's say the mean of the data. So what we do is we use a formula and we say, well, the mean, all we simply do is to take the sum of the frequency multiplied by the median of your intervals. Okay, and by the way, you're given this this formula, okay, divided by, in this particular case, the number of learners or whatever it is that is represented by your x-axis. Okay, right. Your cumulative, your frequency, by the way, not your x-axis, your frequency. So what I'm going to do is, let's try and work it out onto our table here. So we have the median. So let's take the frequency multiplied by the, let's say multiplied by, in this case, our value for the median, right? So we said this is going to be, no, actually not the median. I'm trying to say, yeah, that value there. Okay, right. So in this case, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the product of that. Okay, so let's see. Let's take the product of the two, right? So remember, we said we're taking the frequency multiplied by, in this case, the middle value, the midpoint. That's the value that I'm trying to say midpoint, but I keep messing it up and saying median, the midpoint, right? So in this case, I'm going to have, so in this particular case, you're going to say, well, 18 multiplied by 25. Okay, so let's do that quickly. So 18 times 25, I get 450. Okay, and here I've got 12 multiplied by 35. That's 35. So 12 times 35, well, coincidentally, that is also 450. Okay, so I've got 36 multiplied by 45 in this case. So 36 times 45. Okay, so 36 times 45, that would give me 1,650 and 20 rather. In fact, let me just verify that value there. Okay, so 12 times 35. Actually, that's 420. Yeah, it's a good thing that I verified it. So this is 420. Okay, and then the last one, I'm going to take number of learners multiplied by the midpoint there, which is going to be 34 multiplied by 55. Okay, and in this case I get 1,870. Okay, right. So those are my values. So I'm going to take the product of those values. Okay, or rather the sum, not the product. So that's 450 plus 420 plus 1620. Okay, plus 1870. I hope I've got those correctly. So that's 4,360. Okay, now in this case, remember this is the sum of our values, all right, and this is the sum of the learners. Okay, so to calculate, we said we take the sum of our frequency multiplied by the midpoint, okay, divided by the number of your frequency, the total sum of your frequency. In this case, the number of learners is 100. So we said that's going to be 4,360 divided by, in this case, the number of learners was 100. So that would give us 43.6%. Remember that represents percentage in terms of the results in math. So it means our median value for the percentage of the results would be 43.6%. Okay, right. And just something to note there, they might even ask us about the modal class of the data, right? Now, what is the modal class? This is where we've got the most frequency, right? This is the highest number, in this case, of the learners that we would have. So when I look at that, if you look at our table, what's the highest number of learners? What's the highest number where you've got the number of learners? So I see the highest number is 36. And so where are those learners appearing? In the modal class between 40 to 50. Okay, so that means that our modal class in this case is x is less than or equal to 50 but greater than 40. Okay, so that is our modal class. Now let's just say, for argument's sake, they might ask us a question and say, well, how many learners obtained above 60%, right? So if I go there and say, well, look at that, how many learners would have obtained above 60%? Okay, so if I go there, well, I've represented my data as just being, in fact, let me just say how many learners would obtain, let's say above 40%. Okay, yeah, let's say above 40%. So now when I go there and check, well, this is the frequency or the class, the interval between 40 to 50. And how many learners do I have there? It's 36, right? But in this case, remember I said above 40%, it means it will also include these learners here, because in this case, they would have obtained about 40%. So you'll say, well, that's 36 plus 34 in that case. And in that case, that would give you 70, right? Okay. Now, You can also do that by going to your frequency curve, in this case your ogive, right, and say, well, which learners obtained above 40%, right? The number of learners that obtained anything above 40%. And if I go to my graph, okay, let me just illustrate that in another color. Let's take blue. So I'll say, well, in this case, I see that I've got numbers above 40%, right? So it means anything from here going upwards should have obtained above 40%, right? Now, I want you to think about it. So the number here is 30, right? And the number there is 100. So it means anything between 30 and 100 obtained above 40%. So therefore, what's 100 minus 30? That would still be 70, isn't it? Which is the same number that we got when we summed those two. Okay, right. So in this case, that is how we would do those calculations. So what I want us to do is to take some past exam questions and see how we would go about answering those. All right, now let's start with our second example. So they say a company recorded the number of messages sent by email over a period of 60 working days, right? The data is shown in the table below. All right, so we're given that data there. And of course, they're telling us that between 10 and 20 messages were received in 2 days, and so on and so forth, right? Now, the first thing that they want us to do is to estimate the mean number of messages sent per day, rounded off to 2 decimal places. Now, remember, for us to work out that mean, the first thing that we said that we'd need to do is, okay, so what I'm going to do is just try to kind of make a separate column there, okay? So I'm going to just make, so these are the midpoints, right? So between 10 and 20, of course, my midpoint would be 15, okay? And that would be 25, that would be 35, that would be 45, 55, 65, 75, and 85, okay? Those are my midpoint values. And then remember, what we also now are going to do is so find the product between the cumulative, or rather the frequency, right, which are these numbers here, and the midpoints. So for the first one, obviously that will be 15 times 2, okay? So I'm going to do exactly that. So 15 times 2 here, I'm going to say 25 times 8, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so those are all my values over there. So that would be 35 times 5, that would be 45 times 10, that would be 55 times 12, that would be 65 times 18, 75 times 3, as well as 85 times 2. Okay, right. Now remember, what we're also going to have to do is take the sum of all of those values, right? Because to find the mean, we're going to have to divide by that. So 2 plus 8 plus 5, that's 15, 25, that's 37, that's 55, that's 60. So all in all, the sum there is 60, right? Okay, so now I'm going to just pull out my calculator and say, well, 15 multiplied by 2 plus 25 times 8, that's 35 times 5, okay, plus 45 times 10, plus 55 times 12, plus 65 times 18. Okay, so plus 75 times 3 plus 85 times 2. Okay, right, I get 3080. Okay, so it means in this case I'm going to take that value, that's my product. Okay, so remember to calculate the mean, we always say, well, it's going to be the sum of our frequency multiplied by the midpoint of each interval, okay, divided by the cumulative number, the cumulative frequency in that case, the total number there. So in that case, that would be 60. So we said that gave us 3080 divided by 60, okay? And let's see that divided by 60, that gives us 51.33. So it means that our mean in this case would be 51.33 days. Okay, right, so that would be the number of days in this case, the mean number of days. Right, so the next question, they say to us, draw the cumulative frequency, the ogive or the ogive, I don't know what you want to call it, of the data on the grid provided in the answer book. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let me just have my cumulative frequency here, if you don't mind. Okay, right, remember, how do we get cumulative frequency? So I'm just going to have cumulative frequency there, frequency. Okay, so I'm going to say, so the first number is 2, and then for the next number you say 2 plus 8, that would give us 10, plus 5, that would give us 15, 15 plus 10, that would give us 25, 25 plus 12, that would give us 37, plus 18, that would give us 55, plus 3, that would give us 58, plus 2, that would give us 60. And please remember that cumulative frequency value at the end there should be the same as that sum there. All right, now we're going to obviously have our, for our x-axis, we're going to take the values. Remember, we said we take the upper bound values, right? And then for our y, we're going to take the cumulative frequency value. All right, let's do that. Okay, so we are provided this, right, in our table, or rather in our question paper. All right, so the number associated with 20, in this case, we said, okay, that was 2. So we know that's going to give us 2. So 20, we've got 2 there. Okay, so 20, we've got 2. And then we said at 30, we've got 10. All right, so 30, we've got 10 there. We said at 40, we've got 15. Okay, and then we said at 50, we've got 25. Okay, so there's our 25 value. Okay, and then at 60, we've got 37. So at 60, we've got 35, 36, 37. So there's our value there. And then at 70, we've got 55. Okay, we've got 55. So there's at 70. Okay, and then and at 80, we've got 58. So at 80, we've got 58. There's the value there. And of course, at 90, which is the last one, we've got 60. Okay, so remember, what you do is you just go one value lower, and in this case, one value lower, My lower bound in this case, that's 10. So we make that our x-intercept. All right, so please, we try and draw this as smooth as possible, right? Okay, so I'm going to try my absolute best to connect those dots in the smoothest way possible. All right, so there's my ogive there, my cumulative frequency curve. All right, so that is how we'll get our value there. Right, now the next question, they say, hence, estimate the number of days on which 65 or more messages were sent. Now, please remember that in this case, they gave us the number of messages, right? And we're looking for the number of days. So, 65 or more. So, if we go back to our drawing, right? So, I'm just going to try and get... Okay, so if I look at my drawing there, I'm going to say, well, at 65, so that's 62, right? So it's that value over there, 65 messages. Okay, we're going to try and estimate as best as possible. Okay, and I see, so when I look at that value, let's see, it's associated with, I see that is 45, 6, 7, 8. So that's 48, right? Now, it means that, now if you look at this, it's 48 and more up until 60, right? So it means, now to answer our question, we're going to say, they said to us, estimate the number of days on which 65 messages were sent. So that would be, now I want you to think about it. So it's 60 minus 48. So in this case, that would be just approximately, did I say 48? Yeah, I think 48, which would give us just about 12 days, right? If we estimate it, correctly, yeah, 45, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think that's the best estimation that I got there. But if you also want to kind of make another estimation, and by the way, we did say that they do give kind of a leeway here. So what I would have done is that I would have looked at that, data there on the table and said, look, what is 65 and above? Remember, 65 is between 60 and 70. So in this case, you've got 18 there. So I would say it's a half of 18, right? Because it's half of this interval here, right? Half of 18 plus 3 plus 2. Half of 18 is 9 plus 3 plus 2. That would give you 14. So in this case, our answer there would be around about 14 days. Okay, right. So 12 to 14 days, or you can say that's 14 days. Of course, I'm sure if you use a better estimation than I did there, because I did it freehand. Perhaps if we took our ruler, we probably would have ended up with a value that is much, much better and more closer to what we got there. All right, so that is essentially how the cookie crumbles on this section. And by the way, if you wanted to find out upper quartile, lower quartile, and obviously your median, you can always do that by taking 25%. In this case, it would be 25 for quartile 1. It would be 25% of 60 in this case. And obviously that would be 15, right? If you wanted quartile 1. And so what you do is you go to your table and say, look, so it means that for quartile 1, that's the value 15 there. and it means that quartile 1 is 40 messages for that. Okay, right, so that would be quartile 1. Okay, all right, I'm trying to get that. So that would be quartile 1. If you say 50%, remember 50% of 60, in this case that would be 30. So you go there, and it means your quartile 2, yeah, just round about there. I'm trying to, yeah, so it would be around let's say 55. Yeah, let's say 55. That would be quartile 2. That's your median. Remember, there's a difference between mean and median. The mean we would have to calculate using that formula there. But of course, the median in this case, we would just simply read off from the graph. Okay, right. And what would be a modal class in this case? That would be, well, where do we have the highest number? Our highest number in this case would be 18. Okay, that's 18 days. So in that case, your modal class would be between 60 and 70 in that case. All right. I hope that is quite clear, ladies and gents. I just wanted to take one example that I felt perhaps might need a little bit of just thinking here and there. Right, let's do that and we wrap up. All right, now let's look at this, our last example. And please don't forget to subscribe. Your favorite uncle is always willing to give you some good content. And please tell more people about Mlungisi Nkosi, the channel, all right? And tell them how much you are able to learn all of those good things. Of course, if you are new, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. All right, now let's have a look at it. It says a survey was conducted amongst 100 people, okay, about the amount that they paid on a monthly basis for their cell phone contract. The person carrying out the survey calculated the estimated mean to be 309 per month. Unfortunately, lost some of the data thereafter. The partial results of the survey are shown in the frequency table below. Right, now, first of all, they say to us how many people paid 200 or less in their monthly cell phone contract. Okay, so if you look at that, if you look at, so we've got less than 200, we've got 12 people, right? Between 100 and 200 there. But we also have between 0 and 100, which is 7 people. So that means that people, all in all, those who are paying less than 200 or less in this case, would be 12 plus 7, and so that would be 19 people. Okay. Right, so that would be 19 people. Okay, right, they say use the information above to show that A is equal to 24 and B is 16. Now we're missing some data in this case, right? So we're looking for A and B, but remember that when we take the sum of all of these numbers here of our frequency, it should give us, in this case, 100, because they told us, in this case, in the statement, they said it was conducted amongst 100 people, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sum of people there. So I'm going to say, okay, so it means that, okay, let me just do it on here. So I'm going to say, well, it means that 7 plus 12 plus 12 plus A plus, okay, that's A, not 9, plus 35 plus B plus 6, okay? All of that should be equal to 100, okay? So I'm going to have A plus B, all right? So if I take the sum of all of these, okay, that's 100 actually. All right, so I get 60. Okay, so 35 plus 12 plus 7 plus 6. So that should give me 60. and this is equal to 100. So it means that a plus b is equal to 40. If I take that to the other side, becomes negative. So that means that b, we can even say a, is equals to 40 minus b. Okay, so that should be our equation 1. Now, how do we formulate equation 2? Now remember, in this case, this is where we're going to use our, because they've given us, right, so if you note there, they gave us the mean of the data, right, to be 309. So what I'm going to do is, remember what I do is, okay, so remember for the mean of your data, we need the midpoint values, okay, so xi values, so that would be 50 here, that would be 150 there, okay, that would be 250, that would be 350, that would be 450, that would be 550. Okay, so remember to get the mean, we said, okay, to take the mean, you take the sum of your frequency times your midpoint value, okay, divided by the total number of your frequency. So in this case, right, I'm going to try and squeeze this in here so that I wouldn't, okay, you know what, maybe let's do it at the bottom there. All right, let's do this. Okay, so it means that, okay, let me just change the color. Okay, so it means that if I'm going to take the mean, all right, so I'm going to say, yeah, so that's what I didn't want. So that would be 50 multiplied by 7. Okay, so please remember, we take the frequency multiplied by the midpoint of that interval, and you've got 150 times 12, okay, plus 150 times 12 plus 250 multiplied by a, remember, so you've got a there, and 350 times 35, okay, plus 350 times 35 plus you've got 450 times b, and then you've got, okay, the last one, okay, because I couldn't fit it here, plus 550 multiplied by 6. I believe we got 6 there. Okay, so in this case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add all of those up. Okay, but remember, we divide all of that by 100, which is the total number of frequency, right? But we know that all of this is equal to 309. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm really not going to spend as much time here. Okay, I think we all know what to do, simultaneous equations. So 309 in this case, yeah, so you'll take the sum of all of those values. So you'll have 250a plus 450b plus, so you'll sum up all of those values there, okay, plus I'm not sure what the sum of it is, that's divided by 100. Okay, so all that we're simply going to do is take that sum there, and you're going to simply cross multiply 309 times 100, and then remember that we've got our first equation for a and b. We said a, we should have called this equation 1. We found that a is equals to 40 minus b. So where you see b, you're going to substitute that value there. Okay, so let's call this equation 1. And of course, this one, now you're going to substitute, let's call this equation 2. You're going to substitute equation 1 into equation 2. I'm not really going to waste time with the simultaneous equations there. And then obviously, if you do the right thing, we know that A will be equal to 24 and B 16. Okay, so we know A is equals to 24 and B is equal to 16. Okay, please, I'll allow you to do that for yourself. Okay, right, now let me get to answering the questions that follow. Right, now that we know that the value of A is 24, okay, so we know this value is 24, and we know the value of B is 16. Now that would make it easier for us to calculate, or rather to draw the ogive, isn't it? Okay, so remember, so what are we going to do? We're going to have 7, that's our first value. The second value is 7 plus 12, right? So that would give us 19. Okay, we'll say 19 plus 24. Okay, that would give us 43. Okay, and we'd say 43 plus 35, that would give us 78. Okay, and we'd say 78 plus 16. Okay, that would give us 94. Okay, and finally 94 plus 16, that should give us 100. And by the way, you should always make sure that this gives us the very same value that we have there. Okay, so that tells us that we've done the right thing. Okay, now they said to us, write down the modal class of the data. Right, so where do we have the highest frequency? In this case, so our highest frequency is at is 35. So that would be in the modal class 300 to 400. Okay, right. To 400. So that's our modal class there. Okay, and then the next question, they say on the grid provided, draw the ogive or the cumulative frequency graph to represent the data. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just quickly there, so we've got 7, we've got 19, we've got 43, we've got 78, we've got 94, and 100. Okay, right. Okay, right, so let's try and plot that, okay, in our graph. All right, so we know, so we're going to start exactly at, okay, so remember, we said we take our upper bound values, so we're going to start at 100, okay, and in this case, that's going to correspond, so 100 to 600, okay, so at 100, I've got 7, okay, so let's see, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so it's 2, 4, 6, so 7 is there. Okay, right, so at 200 we've got 19. Okay, so at 200 we've got 19, so there's our 19 value there. Okay, and at 300 we've got 43. Okay, so that's 42, 43 somewhere there. Okay, at 400 we've got 78. Okay, we've got 78. Okay, there's the value there. Okay, and we've got 94 at 500. 94. Okay, there's that value there. And of course, we've got 100 at that 600 mark there. Okay, so there's our ogive. So remember, we did say that, right, we always should start at 0, so we go 1 interval down. Okay, so there's my ogive try to make it as smooth as possible. All right, so there's my graph there. Okay, right, not exactly the neatest, but nonetheless it does the business. Okay, right, now they say to us, determine how many people paid more than 420 per month for their cell phone contract. Okay, so now we want the number of people. We are given the amount, so 420. All right, in fact, I think it might even be easier if we used our ruler. Okay, so what I'm going to do, okay, I know this would represent 420. Okay, so there's my 420 mark there. Okay, so it's that value there on the graph. All right, so that value is associated with 80, well, 70 something. Okay, so they wanted to know how many people would pay over 420. So when I look at that at 420, that's 420 on the graph. So that's around about, what, 79? Okay, yeah, let's just estimate it at 79. So remember, so it means from 79 going up, they would have paid more than 420. So that would be 100 minus 79, right? Or you can say 78. So in that case, the number of people, you can say, well, that's 100 minus 78. So that would be around, what, 22 people? Yeah. So that would be the number, sorry, of people that paid more than 420. All right, I hope that this has been somewhat helpful. And by the way, please don't forget to subscribe. The name is Mlungisi Nkosi. All right, and please, you can visit our website at www.mlungisinkosi.co.za. And of course, you can take advantage of our value-added services. All right, we've got tutorials that are running. We also have upgrade packs, okay, as well as grade 8 to 12 classes that are available. And please don't forget to like and share and give some nice comments at the end. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Sharp, sharp.